Downs and Lee Woods are just 2 miles from a major city centre, Bristol city centre, and yet they're a fantastic place for wildlife. So the gorge is internationally important. It's what's known as a special area of conservation. Lee Woods is a national nature reserve, and the Downs are a site of nature conservation interest. What it's going to say is this is a really special place for wildlife as well as people. Downs, we have 65 different kinds of birds which nest here regularly. So it's a really good place to actually see birds because they're quite used to people being here. So we have everything from little woodland birds, things you'll be very familiar with, like robins and blackbirds, blue tits and great tits, through to maybe slightly more secretive birds like bullfinches and goldcrest. So throughout the year, the Avon Gorge and Downs Wildlife Project run a programme of walks, talks, courses and children's events. We also run courses as well, so we have bird song identification courses, and it tells you a bit about the birds you're likely to see and hear. Yeah, we just really want to encourage as many people as possible to come and look for the birds here.
So bird populations, particularly songbirds in the UK, are suffering from two main issues really. One is related to the countryside, the wider countryside, and one is woodlands. So in the wider countryside there's issues with intensive agriculture, both removing places for bird life to live, but also the insects that they eat through the use of insecticides, for example, and other chemicals. The other factor is woodlands, and because woodlands are being not managed in the way that they were, say, 100 years ago, we're seeing a lot of what we call closed canopy. So we're not getting trees being thinned out, we're not getting trees being coppiced. So the trees are basically closing the canopy, blocking the light out to younger trees and plants lower down in the woodland, and that means that there's less food, there's less flowers for insects, there's less foliage for insects, and that means less food for both woodland birds and other animals living there too.
So if we think first of all about what you can do in your home and gardens, so the first thing really is that you need to think about food, you need to think about shelter, and you need to think about whether you can help them raise their families. You can plant things in your garden that will be good for wildlife. So anything that attracts insects is going to be good for those insect feeding birds.
So if you're just starting to get into birding, my first tip really is just to start being more aware of what's around you. The great thing about being somewhere in Bristol is that birds are often quite used to people, but it's actually being aware of the sounds and just getting your eye in on what different birds look like. Binoculars are a great idea. If you're going to get a bird book, try and get a bird book that's focused just on Britain and not Europe. Those are the two main basic things really. You can also go to different websites today to look up bird sounds. In terms of where to go, Bristol's got some great green spaces, even in the city centre. You've got the harbour side where you get lots of different birds like cormorants and gulls. You've got Brandon Hill, Victoria Park.
The Big Garden Birdwatch, which has been happening since 1979, and in that time it's shown that numbers of sparrows have declined by 57% and starlings have declined by 80%, and they're all birds that nest in our houses. So from October through to March, you just basically every week record the birds that are visiting your garden for 1 hour, and that is really important for a local picture. This is helping us understand the trends of what's happening to these birds and thinking about ways in which we can help them. So it focuses our conservation efforts. There's also owl surveys, there's breeding bird surveys, and there's also wetland surveys. So there's lots of ways that you can contribute. If you really get excited about birds, you can actually join all of these schemes and really help us understand what's happening.